Thank you everyone who clicked on this video. You mean a lot to me. There were previous parts of the first chapter of 4619 released before, so if you haven't seen them, please check them out. How did you know? Yes, tomorrow we are going to Lostport. It is a long journey, going by rail, by air, by roads, but it is worth it. Say something, Frankie. But there was nothing to say. All Francis could do now was burst into tears. Tears of happiness, that is. In one day, his entire life will change. Francis spent all night in anticipation. He thought only of good things, and could not expect what happened the next morning. He was woken up by Grandpa at around 5 in the morning. The old man lit a candle. He was all in tears. So, I saw the tickets Mary left on the table. You're leaving. That is the worst thing I could expect. Sleep sweet, you little traitor. Then Grandpa blew at the candle and put the room in darkness. Francis quickly fell asleep, hearing his grandpa cry. In the morning, at about 11, Mary and Francis finished packing their little belongings and were about to set off for the promised land. They asked for a sledge and a pack of huskies to get them to the station. As they went out, Frankie gave a short glance at what he was about to leave forever. The old house, the old hunter. The grandpa sat on his bed, crying. "I'm sorry, Granddaddy," Francis slowly said. The grandpa put his eyes up and slowly muttered as Francis was about to shut the door. "You don't understand nothing," and burst into even more tears. When the sledge was just about to start moving, Francis, Mary, and the frightened local dog keeper, who agreed to be their companion, heard a loud cry and then a rifle shot from the hunter's shack. They ran back, but were too late. The hunter shot himself right in the heart. It was a week full of traveling by rail, with a cabman, or even on foot, until the plane of Juravel Airlines finally brought Mary and Francis to Lostport. This week was a week of excitement and sorrow. On one hand, Francis was astonished by everything he saw. His first time on a train, first time on a plane, first time ever traveling, he started to realize that the world map in the shack could not show the diversity of the world. Nothing could. On the other hand, it was hard to think about what the grandpa did to himself. Even though he was only 7, Francis felt some guilt, but there was his mother next to him, always there to guide him through his new life. When the plane was about to land in Lostport, Francis could see a spectacular view. The Goat Hop River, twisting around the city's quarters, glimmered under the sun. The gorgeous houses of the rich side, surrounded by parks and wide alleys, all looked amazing on this surprisingly sunny November 19th. Out in the distance, the land of the poor, Fort side, was visible. But it did not catch Francis's eye. He did not know that hell on earth existed. He only saw Lostport as the dream city. He thought about how he would fit into this new way of living. He feared it might take a long time for him to get used to the daily city rush. Even though Lostport was not a megapolis, its pace of life was definitely faster than in the middle of the forgotten woodlands. The plane was making a landing approach and flew over the business district. The high-rises and beautifully built avenues gave Francis an incredible feeling of being on top. The feeling he wanted to experience forever. Among the surly and devastated passengers of that flight, there was one excited youngster, willing to live in his new hometown. Their house was on Mitchell Avenue, in a rather run-down neighborhood of Manganese. It was a 4-story shack with a water tank and a chimney on top. The Callahan family, Mary and Francis, occupied a little filthy room on the 4th floor. The room only had a single little window that offered a breathtaking view. The dirty courtyard with an old rusty seesaw, some other houses, and a junkyard. Nothing there seemed too exciting, but Francis was soon accustomed to his new home. At least this filthy kennel was better than that lonely house in the forest. One thing about the view was there to bring hope. That was the tower that rose above the Lostport University. It was brightly lit at night and shone under the sun at daytime. Something about it motivated Francis to work harder to get a chance to study there. Back in his shack not far from Leaf Rapids, he could not even imagine going to school or any other institution of that kind. Grandpa had an old book called The Diary of a Giver-Upper, which was written by a young boy studying at a private school somewhere in Scotland. And even though in this book the school life was anything but not heaven, the busy life of a student felt like something nice to Francis. A week or so before Christmas break, Francis was accepted to the local school for children from families below the poverty line. He found it hard to socialize simply because the children around him were nearly the first he contacted in reality. Life in the forest pursued Francis with its echo throughout his whole life. The children at schools stayed in groups, and it was hard for the northern loser, as the children called Francis, to get into any of them. But sometimes a thing happens to unite the children that are unwilling to unite. The school's Christmas play was such a thing in the school where Francis had to be. 3 or 4 rehearsals a day quickly helped Francis find his first friend. This was a fellow student who was bullied a lot just because he was not local. Adrian Orteakos, a shy and quiet boy from southern Greece. They quickly got on, and Francis also made friends with his sister, Taisia. Their trio soon became famous in the school, as their acting on the stage was considered great. Rather strange, to be honest, they all played bushes. The school hall, to be honest, was ugly. The scenery for the Christmas play was so bad and dusty that the biggest theater fan would run away. But while there was nothing noteworthy about the scenery, many things could be said about the actors' enthusiasm. It was the common goal that made all those children from poor families work hard to bring a sense of Christmas magic to the shady grey streets of Manganese and Lostport. This is not the whole chapter 1, there will be more parts coming up in the future. Feel free to express yourself in the comments, and thank you.